And certainly something like this is one of the reasons why I would sit there in my own misery, like, why is this happening? Why am I a victim? Why is this happening to me? That would be one of the reasons. I had plenty of reasons. I didn't need a reason to drink, but, it was always nice to have a reason. So having that self-pity, playing that victim card was always problematic. It takes work for some of us to get out of that. It takes work for me, for this alcoholic, to stay out of it, because I'm going through some stuff at home right now, and I absolutely feel like a victim. I mean that, I do. I feel like, there's stuff out of my control that's making life more challenging for me, put it that way. And, and there's just times where I'm just emotionally beat up.
Steve, we have a few people who have given us some money, and I forget to do this because I'm spacey, but it's worth us talking about the people who bought us a coffee and the people subscribing to the newsletter via Substack. First, buymeacoffee.com/soberfriendspod. Moosey Bill bought us 5 coffees.
Nice.
At buymeacoffee.com/soberfriends. And then also Jeff bought a 1-year subscription to the Sober Friends Dispatch, which you can find at soberfriendspod.substack.com. If you find value in this podcast and you are looking to help the new guy or gal find a good recovery message, then consider buying a coffee for us or going to our Substack, where we publish a weekly newsletter. We pour it right back into the podcast, and we're grateful for your support. I'm Matt.
Hey, I'm Steve.
Hey, I'm John.
This is the Sober Friends Podcast. We're here for the sober curious, the new guy, and the old timer. We're here to talk about the stuff anyone looking to live alcohol-free has to face day to day, and how we overcame those struggles. We speak for no 12-step group, but we do try to remain anonymous. You're not alone. This is the Sober Friends Podcast.
Indulge me a little bit, everybody, because Steve always says in private that I'm a serial killer and that I have people buried underneath my basement or underneath the deck. I'm a very creative person and I get itchy, so I had a creative impulse. And so I decided I wanted to create a new Substack, not sobriety centered. It's a Gen X thing because I'm a Gen Xer. It's called the Gen X Playbook. If you want to check it out, the first newsletter was posted. This is just an idea I have that I want to do something creative with the insane amount of pop culture knowledge that I have that I can't do anything with. Well, I got something to do it with. This is like a Gen X featured pop culture type newsletter. And so the first one was released last week. You can check it out at genxplaybook.substack.com. And you got to come out of the box hot when you launch something. So I wanted to go over an episode of Different Strokes. This is The Bicycle Man. This is a 2-part episode where Gordon Jump from WKRP in Cincinnati tries to molest Arnold and Dudley. And so that's where I really wanted to focus my attention. And I don't understand why Steve says these terrible things.
Which is why I think that there's probably bodies under that. Yeah, especially when I go over there, when I've done some stuff in your basement for podcasts and stuff, and we've taped some shows there, and I see that freshly poured cement. That makes me think that there's probably something going on there.
A lot of people think that guns are dangerous, but knives, any ways to die.
All right, how you doing, Matt?
I'm good.
Good.
I thought we would. I had a conversation with somebody new in the program, and I think wasted energy is a great topic tonight. It also ties into a TEDx talk that I saw at work today that bummed me out because I was thinking about behaviors that I could think differently. This kind of ties into self-awareness. And she talks about how 80% of people are not self-aware because they ask themselves why. Why did this happen to me? As opposed to, what should the next step be? And I thought about that. I'm like, I've been there. And I talked to this newcomer about a personal issue, and it really was more, why did I allow this to happen? And I mentioned back, well, what can you do to undo that? If you have a course of action now, what actions are you taking going forward? And he said, that's really a good thought. I'm like, yeah, I don't always take that to heart, but I think this is something in the world of alcoholism that we think a lot about. You know, why is this happening to me? Why has the next shoe fallen? Why am I a victim? As opposed to, I'm in this position, what's the next step?
Well, I don't think it's, just alcoholics who think that. But again, when we talk about it with alcoholics, we always talk about, at least when I talk about it when I do this podcast, I always think back to why I drank, right? Mm-hmm. And certainly something like this is one of the reasons why I would sit there in my own misery, like, why is this happening? Why am I a victim? Why is this happening to me? And that would be one of the reasons. I had plenty of reasons. I didn't need a reason to drink, but, it was always nice to have a reason. So having that self-pity, playing that victim card was always problematic. And it takes work for some of us to get out of that. And it takes work. It takes work for me, for this alcoholic, to stay out of it, because I'm going through some stuff at home right now, and I absolutely feel like a victim. I mean that. I do. I feel like, there's stuff out of my control that's really making life more challenging for me, put it that way. And, and there's just times where I'm just emotionally beat up and I just can't do anything about, but, so I fall into that victim road, like, poor me, poor me. And as they always say, pour me a drink. And while I always feel I'm a long way from that, I also know that when we talk about that halt stuff, and that when I get in any one of those, hungry, angry, lonely, or tired, that there's a chance that something go wrong. And if I get more than one of them, then I could be in trouble. And I am more than one. I'm lonely and tired right now. Tired of these challenges that I have going on at home, and just lonely because part of that, is the same thing. So anyway, I think we spend too much time there as alcoholics, and one of the things that helps me get out of that is doing what we did last night, was to go to our Joe and Charlie on Wednesday night, and it's one of those times where I didn't want to go, and I went there and I went, man, it's exactly what I needed, right? Yep. And that's what I've learned with this program. I get what I need when I'm willing to do things I don't want to do.
I'm not going to go into the details of your situation, but have you thought through that your situation really is the natural course of aging?
Absolutely.
It's not. This is sort of like getting upset that, damn, why is it me who has my brakes going after 80,000 miles?
No, I get it.
That happens.
Absolutely, it is. And on good days, I can think that through and have that settled and be fine with it. And one of the things I talked about, right? And again, this is, and we'll get off topic a little bit here, but this is the part where I read last night, right? I chaired that meeting, and we always bring a reading, and I read pages 62 and 63. Selfishness and self-centeredness, we believe that is the root of all of our problems, right? And that's the reason why I read that, is because, it is just a natural progression, right? And, that I'm taking care of a loved one who's just having some difficulties as we age, right? And I get that. So most days I could do that, but it feels like it's been a long haul, and there's seems to be something in front of me. There seems to be an end to it, I think. But I also know that may not be true. So,
likely there is.
Yeah, so that's part of the thing, is like, there seems to be an end, but I don't know. And here's the other thing, and that I spoke with John about this last night after the meeting. We talk about how much some of us, we love to hike, and we do some hiking and stuff. And this year, I was into it. I did some really, really big hikes by myself. I did a bunch of solo hiking and found that I liked it a lot. And I was really pumped up for this hiking season, especially winter hiking. I love winter hiking. I love being out there in the snow. And then this situation happened, and it's taken me right off. It's just gone. Like, I can't leave the house for that long. And I realized, like, I said that last night, like, that's part of the problem. Like, it's one of those things where I had that plan in my head, like, oh, this is going to be a year that I'm going to have a great year. I'm going to get in great hiking shape during the winter, so that when spring and summer comes, I'll be able to head up to the White Mountains and really kick some ass, And then, like, it's gone. right? It's completely gone. So it's that whole combination of stuff that has led me to a point, and I'm talking especially the last few days, where just emotionally, I'm just tanked right now. Emotionally, I'm tanked. Tanked enough that I thought about calling, texting you, saying, "Hey, let's do this Sunday instead of tonight." But again, I know that I feel better when I do these things, right? So that's why I sat down. I'm like, no, I'm not going to do that, because I know that once I sit here and we get talking, that I'll actually feel better when I get done. So
makes me feel good, because I was in no mood. I'm tired.
Yeah.
But then I looked and I'm like, it's a half hour.
Right. Me too. Right. You were running a little bit late, and I was like, oh, maybe he won't want to do it. But I know that once we do this, I feel better, and it just gets me out of what's happening, right? Just sort of gets me out, and I have to pay attention to what we're doing here, and at least whatever it is. Last night it was a couple hours at Joe and Charlie, and tonight it's this, and takes me out of my own self for a little bit, so I could think about something else.
Were you much of a Seinfeld watcher?
I wasn't. I mean, no, I would not call myself. Yeah.
All right. So one episode, like, it was going to be the summer of George, and he did something, like he slipped and fell or something, and he needed to do physical therapy the whole summer, and it was going to be the summer of George. Right. And that's what it just reminded me of.
Yeah. I believe it. And it is not the first time that kind of stuff has happened to me, and that I've gotten derailed off of something like that. But it is just, listen, we talk about it. It's living life. And I guess that's a little bit what we're talking about. Like, why is it happening to me? What's going on? We talked about wasted energy before we started, all that kind of stuff. But it's just life on life's terms, right? That's really what it comes down to. And it's about rolling with the punches. And like I said, for the most part, I'm able to do that. I've hit a bump where I'm having a hard time doing that. I'm having a hard time seeing past my own needs, my own stuff. So, this too shall pass. I get it. And it's been a couple, this week's been a tough week, and the last couple of days have been difficult. But and this is the old thing, we talk about it all the time, right? I'm not thinking about drinking over it. It's not. It doesn't seem like it's an option to me. I don't have this feeling like, oh man, I wish I could. So all of that's the good stuff, right? Like, I can deal with all of these feelings, even feeling really bad, even feeling lonely, even feeling tired, without thinking, oh man, I should have a drink. And I've talked about it before. There's still an open bottle of wine in my fridge, right? I mean, it's there. And it doesn't bother me. I don't think about it. And so that's all the good news. So I've done some work. I've seemed to be okay with that. And if I felt uncomfortable with that, I also know what to do, right? Like, if I really felt bad tonight, one of the things, I know there's a men's meeting, I could have texted you like, hey, I need a meeting. I'm going to a meeting. We'll do the podcast a different day, right? So, I know how to handle things when I need it. And I'm grateful for that today. I'm grateful for the program, for the 12 steps of AA, and for the fellowship that allows me to do that kind of stuff when I need it.
By the way, you mentioned the bottle of wine in your fridge. Just, that was your topic to help you. Lots of positive feedback on last week's episode.
Oh, really?
There were more listeners than normal, and I got a very long message from somebody who got a lot out of it.
Oh, good.
So on target with that one. And if you haven't listened, go back to last week's, listen to it. It was a very good episode. It'll probably help you. But it was a conversation that a lot of people found useful. Yeah. I think this is really also an expectations topic. Yeah. Because I don't think this was the thing that I talked to this newcomer about. But he also mentioned something else about not feeling, it was a productive day. I want to feel like it's a productive day. So I asked, well, tell me a little bit about it.
Right.
And he had gone, the Joe and Charlie was his third meeting of the day.
Right. Yeah.
And I said, all right, so here's what you got to think through on being productive. What does that mean? You could have, if you had planned on going to 6 meetings in one day and you only went to 3, that's going to feel like I wasn't productive enough because you set the expectation too high. Whereas I've never gone to 3 meetings in one day.
No, me neither.
And he did. And I think he needed it, and he just wanted to feel connected to people again, and he wasn't. And that was one of the things that made him feel productive. But it led to a conversation around, there is something to be said that you're not productive at all. But there's also something to be said that you won't feel productive if you set yourself up for failure and you have the wrong expectations. Yeah. I had on my calendar today, so the first hour and a half, I didn't have any meetings. And then after that, I had a half-hour break, which I ate. But the rest of it, I was in meetings, including, I think, like a 3-hour meeting. If I had a long list of tasks I needed to do today, I might feel I didn't get anything done.
Right.
Well, no, that's not the measure of productivity. The measure of the productivity was I was participating actively in all of those meetings.
Right.
So if you're feeling as though I'm not getting the things done in recovery I want to, I'm not doing enough, I think you need to look back and say, all right, well, what are my expectations? What am I doing? And is it enough, or is it I'm not setting myself up to be successful here?
Yeah, I agree. If first of all, I think if you do 3 meetings in a day, you've been pretty productive. That's just me, right? I mean that honestly. Like, if you feel motivated enough to do 3 meetings, I happen to know a little bit about the meetings that he goes to, right? Mm-hmm. He probably spent over 6 hours either traveling to or participating in meetings yesterday, right?
Yep.
I mean, we did 2 hours of a Joe and Charlie, and it's basically a 25-minute drive or 30-minute drive, right? So that's 3 hours for that one meeting, considering, right? You got to drive 2 back, and plus you got to sit there. So if you did 2 more meetings, that's 6 hours in your day. That's a productive day. I've never done 3. I've done 2 on multiple occasions, but I've never done 3. Mm-hmm. And if I felt like if I did 3, I might feel a little tired. But I agree with you. It depends. He talked about it too. He said at the meeting that the old saying, expectations are resentments in waiting, or whatever the statement is. Right there, and that's the truth. And I know that from experience that. Once I get some expectations, and again, when I have expectations, it comes back to that self-seeking, self-centeredness. Typically, it's about something that I want and didn't get, and he talked about that too, right? That having that expectation of not getting something he wants or something you deserve, right? Which is always, one of my big things is like, I deserve this, right? Mm-hmm. Look at me. I've been working so hard. I deserve this. And so it's difficult. And like I said, that's why I picked that reading. That's why I thought about it, because I have to remind myself that it's all about me. It really is. It's all about me. It's about my place, my conditions. And again, you're right. What I'm going through, it's a lot for some people. It's a lot less than other people, right? I know a woman at my noon meeting who I've only been going there for less than a year, but I've gotten to know her a little bit. She took care of her husband for 12 years. Mm-hmm. 12 years, And like you said, it's just what happens as we age and things happen. And I don't know the extent of it, and I have no clue what that looked like on her end. But I do know that it was a 12-year struggle before he passed away. And, so that's life. And again, we go back to this, am I comparing myself or am I identifying, right? That's the other thing. When I start feeling sorry for myself, is because I'm comparing myself. Mm-hmm. That's what I'm doing. I'm comparing myself to everybody else who can go out there and hike as much as they want and who doesn't have that and all that kind of stuff. So I got to watch out for that.
I'm going to see if I can, I'm saying it now, so I'm going to have to commit to putting the link of the TED Talk in here. I have to find it now, but I can just go on my work computer and find it. It was as applicable to recovery as anything else, and it's not recovery based, but it really applies to people in recovery, because I drank a lot on feeling sorry for I'm not at the place I want to be in. Don't have the house that I want. I don't have the job that I deserve. There's somebody who I graduated with in college, who is she reports to the CEO of this company. She leads HR for a New York City-based company. She's done pretty well for herself.
I'd say so.
And having known her in college, I am incredibly proud of her. And I look, I'm like, you deserve this. On the other hand, I'm like, well, why am I not there? Right. I'm in this position so many rungs below that. As opposed to asking some question in terms of why am I not there, I could ask some, which leads to resentment. I could ask to, what do I really want to get out of a career? What are the things I really want to do? Do I want to be so high up that I'm leading to reporting to a CEO? And the answer is that no. I have led people for many, many decades. I wouldn't say many decades. Well, yeah, I guess in the last almost 20 years. And now I'm in an individual contributor role, even though listed as a supervisor. And I like just doing my own tasks and leaving at the end of the day. I don't really want to go back to that. So what do I want to get out of it? I don't know. I want to create multimedia and I want to teach people. And that's the stuff I want to do. And having a lifestyle that I have is important to me at this age. I know of somebody who's considering taking a job in another state, not because this person wants to, but because this person feels obligated because the people who own the company have been really good to me, so I owe them. So the job would take this person out of state 5 days and they'd come home on the weekends. Mm-hmm. And I looked at that and I'm like, I wouldn't want that.
No, not me.
And it would be a lot of money, but this person doesn't need the money.
Right.
It's more is always good, but it's not like this is make or break. It's not make or break at all. And my response was, no company is ever going to care about you more than you.
Yeah, I agree.
Because you may think that, but the moment you're not valuable, I promise you, they will cut bait on you.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So you could go and break your back for some goal that you think is the case. And then when you get let go, it's like, I didn't deserve this. Right. I was loyal. And that leads to a drink. And I have felt that way before, as opposed to, what do I have to do? What's right for me?
Yeah. I spent a long time working for small, medium, and then a very large company at the end of my career, and I realized that too at the end. And there was times where I had some opportunities to do some. I never liked managing people. I did it for a short period of time, became sort of like a sales manager, and I realized, like, man, I don't like this at all. It was for me. I just wanted to I wanted to do my own thing. I was in sales, and I was like, I could do my own thing. I can make my own number. Give me my number. I'll go make my number and I'll make my money. And I was happy doing that. So, I look back at that and myself too. Like, I had some opportunity to do some different stuff and it just wasn't me. And what was important to me is a little bit like what's important to you, was being available for my kids when they were younger and being around and doing what I can with them. And then I had gotten divorced, so there was a time where I was like, all right, I do got to make some money. So, but I never wanted to move. And when I worked for a big corporation, probably if I wanted to really take any steps, I would have to move. And I wasn't willing to uproot my wife and my family. And it would be my wife, really, because my kids were grown. But I didn't want to do that. One of the things that we struck out, and I looked it up while we were talking about it, but in Into Action, chapter 6 in the big book, there's a line in there when we were talking about wasted energy. On page 88, it talks about there's a saying in the bottom of page, on the top of page 88, it says, "We are then much less danger of excitement, fear, anger, and worry, self-pity, or foolish decisions. We become much more efficient. We do not tire so easily, for we are not burning up energy foolishly as we did when we were trying to arrange life to suit ourselves," right? which is a little bit what we're talking about tonight, right? We're trying to, wrestle life into the expectations or how we think it should be, and it burns up our energy. And it's happening to me. Like, I'm in the middle of that right now. And it's one of the reasons why I've said it to several times at my meetings. I even said it to my wife tonight. I'm lonely and I'm tired, right? Because I'm burning up energy and I'm trying to get out of that. The dog and I went for a 2-hour walk today, right? A 2-hour walk today. And I felt a little bit better when I got back from that. Because I do like getting out and doing that kind of stuff. It was a nice enough day that I felt pretty good. But, I just need to do some stuff to get out of that type of funk, because that is what happens. And I know that if I continue to do this work, if I continue to connect with my higher power and try to make that connection on a regular basis, that I will tire less easily, that I'll be able to push through some of this and be better, right? Be more supportive, be better, be stronger, all those type of things.
This is where a higher power comes in, however you identify with it. And this is where it goes hand in hand with meditation. Like, I go out and I connect with a higher power outside, and I feel better if I go for a nice long walk. And the reason for that is I clear my mind. I need a calm and relaxed and clear mind to think about what is the next right thing to do. And there have been some times where I've needed that, and then the solution becomes obvious. And it's like, well, why didn't I think of that? Which, again, is the wrong question. I'm like, all right, I did think of it. What should I write down for next time? Or now that I have this solution, what's the next thing I'm going to do? What do I need to do to avoid this happening again? Because sometimes the right solution is there. Whether that's in prayer, receive a message from God, or whether you're like me, that you're walking with the dogs, and because you're walking with the dogs and listening to a podcast, the thoughts of those other things are not distracting you, that it comes to you.
Yeah. That is it. And I think about that kind of stuff too. And I thought about that last night, like, because I shared a little bit about where I was at, and like, what do I need to do today to change that, right? You're like, what are the steps that I need to take? And part of them was getting out and doing what I did, was doing that walk. The other part was probably doing a little bit more reading and meditation, which I did not do, just because of the way the day went somewhat. But, it is a good thing to think about. Put a plan together, try to stick with that plan. And there's some things I do today that I enjoy. Like, I've become this big reader recently, and it's like, what I love to do now is just sit down with a book, especially if it's a good book, and just read. And I have found the book that is really, it's an easy, fun read, and I just started, and I could get lost in that for hours. Little tough concentrating right now. Like today, it wasn't as good of a day, but it's another one of those things that I like doing. So there are things I could do to take care of myself. It's an action program. We talk about this all the time, right? I'm not going to get better unless I take steps to help myself get better. So I need to work on that. I need to, get some ideas and make some plans. But I also know that tomorrow night I go to my men's meeting, right? So I know it's upcoming for me. Tomorrow I go out. I know I'm going to hit my men's meeting, which is always a great night for me, and I look forward to that. And truthfully, I'm really thinking that this, I don't go to Timmy's TP meeting often, but I'm really thinking that this might be a great weekend for me to go visit his TP meeting Saturday night. Because it's what I need when I get in these kind of places.
And as much of a crotchety, grumpy guy as Tim is, if you show up, nobody will be more grateful and happy.
Yeah,
because as crotchety and grumpy as he is, he's really not.
No. And
definitely appreciates that love returned. So this is where I'm going to end. And it doesn't have, because you mentioned books. I'm working on 2 books right now because I have ADHD and I can't just do one. And this is sort of my ask for you, the audience, of what are you reading? I'd love to get your book ideas. This can be recovery based. It doesn't have to be. The one that I'm putting most effort into is Lorne by Susan Morrison, because I am obsessed with Saturday Night Live, and there's not a lot of Lorne Michaels stuff out there. Yeah. He seems to still be a mysterious figure for being around for all but 5 of the years Saturday Night Live has been around, and then all of the people who have gone through there, that he has been a gatekeeper into their career. And I have the book, the audiobook version of Based on a True Story by Norm Macdonald. And I feel like this is kind of my goodbye to Norm, because he narrates the whole book, which is fantastic. I'm a huge Norm Macdonald fan. And it's still, Saturday Night Live 50, I cried at the end of Adam Sandler's song when he talks about, 6 years for our buddy Chris Farley, 5 for our buddy Norm, or whatever he said. And the two of them are two of my favorite people on SNL. Yeah. And him and Hartman, those three. Hartman, Norm, Farley, 3 of my favorite people, and they shouldn't be gone. They should be around still. Yeah. And it really, and Norm hurts the most because we didn't know how little time we had left with him, because he never told us.
Yeah, he
didn't tell us he was sick.
Yeah, he was just gone.
Yep. And it broke my heart. And I think he was one of the funniest people and brought me so much joy. All of them. Farley, we were not surprised, but Hartman and Norm were major shocks to the system in different ways. So you can reach out with whatever you'd like. I love to get the feedback, but if it's just, hey, I'm loving this book, I'd along too. I'd love to have that conversation. All right, Steve, I hope you feel better tonight.
All right, Mac, I feel better. Matt, I feel better already. Like I said, I always feel better when I sit here and I talk with another alcoholic. So glad to be here tonight.
All right, we'll refill our cups next week. Bye, everybody.